Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And as people come in, we'll just let them come into the presentation. But I wanted to introduce myself briefly. My name is Christina Plante. I am an assistant director of career services on the undergraduate team in the Career Center. I primarily work with first years and sophomores, but I see all students from all majors. And I work a lot with exploration and managing transitions and helping kind of figure out what you're wanting to do. So I'm excited to be talking with you all today about navigating the internship search. I know this is a hot topic right now and something that I get a lot of questions about in student appointments. So I'm excited to give you a little bit more insight to how to approach this topic and see how you can take advantage of your summer. And a few notes about the session today. This is recorded, so just keep that in mind. And also, I will do my best to send you all the slides afterwards so you can have access to some of the links and resources that I'm going to be sharing with you all today. All right. So what to expect moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit about how to narrow in on what you're looking for this summer. Then we're going to look at some different options that you can pursue outside of internships. Just briefly touch on different things that have that are also great experiences that you can take advantage of. And then we're going to go into more of the details of the internship search itself. Some of the things like application materials and strategy and all of those pieces. So just a little outlook on what to expect for this presentation. All right. So the first thing we'll talk about is, what are you looking for? And this is so important. And I think this is one of the main steps that I see a lot of students skip in the process. I think it's easy to go directly to a job board or start looking at all the options that are out there. And sometimes this can get overwhelming. So if you're kind of open for anything, open for any kind of internship experience, sometimes that can almost be hindering to you in the process. So we like to spend some time thinking through maybe what are some of your previous experiences? What have they been? What are some of the activities that you're involved in? And what else do you want to get exposure to? So I wanted to take some time now to think through some of those parts and brainstorm the skills and types of experiences that you're wanting to gain. So maybe, for example, you have, 3 different main interest areas, and you've been able to kind of try out or practice in like 2 of those interests, but one of them you still haven't had much exposure to yet. So that might be a good reason or a good topic to try out for this summer. And it could also be, what types of people or services or products do you want to work with? What are some of your salary requirements, or maybe you have a geographic location preference or desired hours. So that could be maybe, you're working part-time and you can't have, a super demanding internship for the summer. So kind of putting that into your criteria list. And then also thinking, what are your short-term and long-term goals? And how might this experience kind of fit into thinking about this summer versus next summer, or some of your other semesters, how that might play out in terms of what to take advantage of. So we're going to take a little bit of time, just a few minutes, and brainstorm some of these answers to these questions. And then we're going to come back together, and I'll get you to kind of share in the chat some of your ideas, some of the different things that have kind of come up for you during this process. Okay. So take about 2 minutes, and then I'll come back together. Anybody? Different types of experiences or skills or industries that you want to work with for this summer? Great. Yeah. So environmental organizations, could be engineering, marketing. Here we go. Yep. Looking at location, no salary requirements, something hands-on. I love this. Yes. So this can be as broad or as specific as you want it to be. Um, and some of these resources, or some of these will have really great resources for you. Yeah, research, startups. We're actually having a event called Startup Connect in February, so in a few weeks. So that could be great for you, McKenna. And working with law and policy, creative writing. Awesome. So as we kind of go into this search, keep these things in mind, right? Have this as something that you're going to refer back to as you're looking at different options, because, like I've mentioned before, it can get overwhelming as you're looking through job boards and opportunities to have something to focus in on what you're hoping for. Okay. And I wanted to touch on some of the career readiness competencies that are also going to be helpful for you. So basically what this is these were created by NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And they kind of got together and were like, what are the things that we really think would help students become career ready by the time they enter the workforce? So you'll see things on here that are not, that are familiar, right? Like teamwork, collaboration, critical thinking or problem solving, leadership. It could be global or intercultural fluency. So as long as you are doing something this summer where you're able to gain some of these career readiness skills, you're going to be in really great shape. And you're going to be able to market yourself and really go into a lot of different industries seamlessly. So definitely know that. And that's something you'll hear us talk about too in terms of transferable skills as well. And we can talk more about that in the coming slides. Okay, so different types of experience. So I wanted to show this slide as just an example of the different types of things you can do this summer that doesn't necessarily have to be an internship. So we do have some wonderful Duke summer programs that are offered. And if you haven't seen the summer opportunities list, that is a great resource for you to check out some of those programs and what might be going on campus or, in this case, remote for the summer. So definitely check those out. It's a wide range of different opportunities there. Like someone mentioned in the chat, research is a great thing to do over the summer, whether you want to do that at Duke with like a Bass Connections, or if you wanted to do it in your hometown at a university or partnering organization there. That's a great way to get involved. Summer fellowships. So if you haven't heard of the Office of University Scholars and Fellows at Duke, they have a wonderful list of options for fellowships that you can take advantage of for the summer that are typically kind of short-term, these short-term experiences. So I would check out their website as well. And then we've got, the Study Away, the Duke Engage programs. I know those are a little bit on hiatus for right now, but know that those can be an option in the future, hopefully pending COVID-19 and what happens with that. I have a lot of students who go home over the summer. So if you know that isn't an option for you or something that you're going to do, thinking about, okay, what can I do in my hometown? Can I take advantage of maybe doing a project with my high school, or maybe I know someone in the community and they need help with something. How can I kind of utilize my my network there and see how I can pursue that? Creating your own experience. This is something that has been really fun to see with the pandemic in terms of how creative students are being with creating different experiences. So if you have an idea for something, if there's a problem that you want to solve and you want to maybe find a mentor or connect with an alumni and ask them, how can I help you this summer? Or can we work on this problem together? And I think that's a great way to show initiative and to show creativity and entrepreneurship. So definitely keep that in mind as you're looking. And then I've definitely seen a lot of students take advantage of learning online. So maybe that's through Coursera, it could be through LinkedIn, and also just Duke summer classes in general. Enrolling in those is a great way to get ahead of your coursework or just kind of help you stay on track that way. And then finally, we have volunteering and shadowing. Again, these are great learning experiences, great resume builders. And if you could get an alum or someone to allow you to shadow them for the day and just kind of see, is this the right fit for me, or is this an industry that I can see myself being in? And then for volunteering, is finding a cause that you care about and how can you kind of make an impact within that organization or community there. So lots of options, right? So we'll definitely dive into internships for today, but I did want to show you the scope of what we typically see students do, right? So it's not just that internship part. So if you are still unsure after kind of looking at some of these options, I did want to point out some of our occupation exploration resources. So these are on our website and can really help you dive into understanding just what's out there. So the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which is the star icon on here, and ONET, they go into detail on specific occupations and describe what they are. So you could look up, what are different types of jobs in business or agriculture, or it could be history or politics, and you can see what types of roles exist out there. What skills do they require? Do they require higher education? What is the salary requirements? Is this a growing occupation? So it really is kind of like a research tool for you to like dive into what's out there and different ways that you can work. We also have what can I do with this major? So if you have a major that you are considering or you've already declared, you can explore options this way as well. Know that your major doesn't dictate your career and that you don't have to go into these areas, but these are things that kind of came up for students who had that major in typical areas that they explored afterwards. And then resources for exploring careers, that's just to reference our industry guides on our website. So we've kind of broken down some of the main industries that we hear a lot about, and kind of gave you a one-stop shop of like everything we know about business or everything we know about engineering and technology, you can kind of find and access on these resources or on this industry guide. So know that is there too. And again, you can also make an appointment with a career advisor, right? That's what we're here for, and to help you kind of navigate some of these big questions. Okay. So we are going to jump into the internship search and some of the strategies here. So the first thing I'll mention is like kind of broad overview. It really helps to find a way to stay organized and kind of collect and house your information, because this process is layered. You'll have companies that you're reaching out to, you'll have applications that you need to manage, you'll have people and contacts that you're talking to. So I like to say, find a structure that works for you, and whether, whatever is working for your classes or whatnot, and use that as a tool for yourself as you navigate this. I tell some students to treat this like a class, because it is something that is, it can be demanding at times, but it could be as easy as setting aside an hour a week to work on applications or send out a few emails to some people. But this is one of the first things that gets put on the back burner when the semester is in flow. And I totally get that, right? Like academics are coming first, you're doing a bunch of activities. So it's easy for this to kind of get away from you. So if just that hour a week helps you kind of stay on track, definitely try to put that in your schedule. So networking, and I wanted to put this chart in here just to show the emphasis that we would like to put on networking and how important it is in the job search. Um, as you can see, we would like you to spend about 50% of your time networking and the rest of the time either preparing applications, looking at search postings, and kind of all of the other logistical application things. So the reason why is networking, you're going to get your biggest return on your investment. You're going to be able to have a advocate or someone to speak for you in the organization and potentially give you a referral. And it'll help you get pulled out of that applicant pool. So if you are 1 in 100 applications, what's going to get you noticed? And if you have someone within the organization speaking on your behalf, it's a lot easier. And we can go into more detail on networking in the next few slides as well. I just wanted to kind of give you that visual of that. I've had some students come in my office who are like, I've applied to 30 places and I'm not seeing much traction. And this is when we'll have this conversation of, well, are you networking? And how can we kind of rethink your strategy here of making that happen? And then recruiting timelines. So this is a question I get a lot. And this is very dependent on the industry that you're applying for. It's also a little interesting right now with COVID because typical recruiting timelines are being altered, not knowing the state of like in-person or remote opportunities. So, you will see some industries will have rolling recruiting timelines. So that's just fall and spring. You'll see plenty of opportunities from them. There are some like finance that you'll see who I recruit about a year in advance for internships. And then some industries like politics and nonprofit, government, law, they are recruiting kind of now in the spring. So again, it just kind of depends on what areas you're looking into. But I will say the general ebb and flow of the semester is that we typically see a lot of opportunities become available in the beginning of the semester, in the first, 3 months. So this like January, February, March, we'll see kind of a lot more things come through. And then it'll kind of taper off a little bit. That doesn't mean things stop coming through. We definitely have things come through for the complete end of the semester. So I don't want you to panic if that's if you see that later. But I do want to emphasize the importance of checking in and looking at those applications early in the semester in case you're going to miss something that really sounds appealing to you. And I know with a lot of the Duke summer programs too, we'll see that earlier application deadline as well. Okay. All right. So this is just an example of a way to keep you organized and have you think through developing a company target list. This is helpful if you're not really sure where to start, but that you have some companies that have always come up for you as interesting, exciting places to work. So it could just be companies you've always heard of. It could be you look at top companies in this industry and see what shows up. Maybe during your search on job boards, you are finding a lot of openings in a certain organization. You're like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Let me put that on my list. Or it could be by like location or where our alums are. But starting with companies can be really great if you're wanting to explore an industry and then just kind of see what types of roles are available or are open that you feel like that you're drawn to there. So as you can see on this example, you can put in the company, you can put in the position that you're applying to, the link to the posting, maybe there's a contact listed there. And then you're going to put into that search criteria. So remember we did some of that brainstorming in the beginning. So, maybe it's location, or is this, will this allow me to build my leadership skills? Or will this develop me in this like tech space? So put your criteria on there too and see if that position is meeting that for you. And then finally, your overall motivation. So from 1 to 5, like, how excited are you to apply to this, right? Is this something that is really appealing to you? Or is it just more of a something that you want to get an application in, but like it's not your top one of your top choices there? So definitely if you're not an Excel person, I personally am not an Excel person, but you can try out different platforms. So I know some students who are utilizing Trello or Slack or any of these other great platforms that can help you stay organized throughout this process. Okay. All right. So we're going to get to a point where you're going to want to kind of prioritize your time. So from that company list, what are your top choices? Which ones are maybe kind of middle range, and which ones might be on the lower end? So for those top ones, we want to see you kind of networking strongly here. Maybe you spend more time tailoring your resume or your cover letter to really hone in on what they're looking for. Your middle choices might be, still networking, maybe not as much. And then you're still tailoring your documents. And then maybe lower choices is you're just like, all right, I'm just going to get application in there and hope for the best. And you can also think about this too in terms of maybe when you were applying for college, you had like your reach schools, your mid-range schools, and maybe more of like your safety schools. You can think about companies in terms and positions in those terms as well. So I don't want you applying for all top name competitive companies because it's going to be more competitive, right? We want to vary your options and vary your chances to kind of get some good responses and get some things going. All right. Okay. And so a big part of the internship search is going to be preparing your job search materials. So some of you might have already gotten started on creating a resume, understanding some of the nuances of cover letter writing. But these are going to be things that you'll want to have kind of ready to go as you're starting to navigate this process. Even in your conversations with people who are you're networking with, they might ask to see your resume. So it's nice, again, to have that ready to go. But if you haven't been into the Career Center to get your resume looked at, we highly recommend it. You can, all of our appointments right now are online, and we also have specific resume review appointment types that you can sign up for with our career ambassadors, or you can also utilize drop-in advising for that. But they're quick 15-minute appointments just to get another set of eyes on it and help you kind of make the strongest application that you can. And then same thing with cover letter. We can help you navigate that. Some industries are moving away from cover letters. Like I see that a lot in like tech, but we usually say if it's optional, we still recommend writing one because it shows that you're serious about the position and that what you're applying for. And then if they say don't write one, follow their directions. But it is a good skill to learn how to write that. So definitely come in. And I will say that is a part of the process that probably takes more time because it is kind of like a short essay that you're writing for each application that you're submitting. LinkedIn profile. So definitely something to be thinking about during this time. We have a really great LinkedIn guide on our website under our networking page for you to kind of get started with developing a LinkedIn profile. This is something that you can come into the Career Center for and say, hey, can you do a LinkedIn profile review and give me some tips on how to make my profile strong, or even just how to use the platform? Because to like find alums and to kind of start networking and reaching out that way is something that'll probably be part of your search in some capacity. Some students will utilize a personal website, or they might have a portfolio. So maybe more of my like arts and entertainment people, they might have more of like a actual portfolio where they want to show their work and show the things that they're working on. And sometimes a personal website is just easier to manipulate and make the way you want it to. So, don't feel like you have to do all of these things. Just as long as you have one of these to have some kind of online presence is going to be very helpful. A reference list is something that's also sometimes asked of you. This is basically a list of people who can talk on your behalf. So maybe a past supervisor who you've worked for. It could be a faculty member if they know you on that level, or you maybe worked in their research lab. But it's usually purely just names and their email, their phone number, and ways to reach out to them. And it's nice to let some of those people know that you've put them on their reference list. So if they get a call from a potential employer, they're expecting that. So typically at the end of your internship or interview process, they will check references, and that's what that would be. They would reach out to one of those people and just ask any other things that they're any other questions that they still have about you. And then finally, I have some students who will go ahead and craft a reach out email, and also like a potential thank you note template as they're going through some of their networking conversations. So it might just be like, here's my quick intro, here's why I want to talk with you. And that way it'll just make it a little bit easier when you're trying to get some calls and some informational interviews going in that sense. Okay, so job search materials, these are some good things to be thinking about. And then where can you actually go to find internships? So this, again, is a question I get a lot. The first resource that I will say to check out is Career Connections. So that is probably how you signed up for this workshop today, is Career Connections. It's a chance for you to look at any career events that are going on and access any job postings that an employer is putting on there. So there's a tab called Jobs and Internships, and you can actually apply different filters to it and see what is available or what is open to Duke students at that time. So definitely check out Career Connections for anything that is being offered, any employer that wants to hire a Duke student. The internship series online is a resource through the Career Center that you can also look at. It's kind of separated out by internship books, where they have different topics. So it'll have like human rights, or the Big Green internship book. It could have sports internship book. And it's basically just a short one-page summary of an internship opportunity that you can follow up with and click the link for. So again, it's just a quick place to start there. Duke List, I think most of us are familiar with Duke List. It's just our Duke job posting board. Sometimes there's research positions on there. Sometimes there's kind of work study things, but there could be some really great things that are coming through Duke List. Interstride and Lock in China are two new resources that we have. So Interstride is really helpful with international students. So it includes global career opportunities, visa and immigration support, student resources and services, and networking and mentorship. So definitely check that out. And then Lock in China focuses on development of Chinese overseas talent and provides employment solutions and career development support for Chinese returnees and students who are about to return. So definitely look at those. Department web pages. So sometimes if you look at like the, I don't know, history department or the econ department, they'll have some internship resources on there. So I like to refer to those when appropriate. And then we also have some Duke specific job boards through a lot of like our interdisciplinary areas. So for example, like innovation and entrepreneurship has their own job board. The Energy Initiative has some internships that are coming through. Science and Society does as well. The Alumni Association, Sanford, Global Health, if you're interested in that, they have a great careers page. So I'm happy to kind of share these job boards with you as well. I know it's kind of a lot of information coming at you at once, but know that if you have any of those interests, that there is another place you can kind of access to see what's coming through for that. LinkedIn and Indeed are more broad general search engines, so you can look for jobs on both of those. And then finally, Parker Dewey is it's not really a newer thing, but I guess it is a newer thing, but it looks at micro internships. So these are remote short-term internships where you can work on several different projects with different companies over the summer. So it might be like a 3-week project with a certain company, and then it'd be like a 2-week project with another one. So if you're looking just for some like kind of quick experience, that could be another option for you. It doesn't always have the component of having like a mentor or someone that you're working really closely with. So if you're looking for more of that like teamwork or collaboration part, that might be a little bit harder to gain through those, but it is an option. So you can check out what's going on with the Parker Dewey website. Okay. So talking to people, like I mentioned before, networking is very important. So when you're thinking about where you're applying to, knowing at least one person in the companies you're applying to is really helpful. So one way to do that is by conducting a informational interview. And these are typically short, 20 to 30 minute conversations with people within your company of interest, or just someone who sounds interesting to talk to, right? So you might initiate this conversation by saying something like, hi, I'm a current sophomore. I found your information on LinkedIn or the alumni directory. You seem like a really great person to talk to because of these reasons. This part of your career path really stood out to me, and I'd really like to know more. So you're always coming from a place of I'm looking for information or advice or seeking, just learning about you and like where you come from. And instead of I'm looking for a job, right? We want to stay away from I need something from you in that very first reach out email. Okay. So then you might say, here are some days and times that I am available for, a quick conversation. Looking forward to hearing from you. And it can be as simple as that, right? So I have some students who use this very strategically. So maybe they're like, I know I'm applying to these companies. I'm going to reach out to people in these companies. And then I have students who are just exploring, right? You're just kind of gathering information and trying to learn more about different opportunities. So using this as a chance to reach out and learn more about, different people and where in their company and what, gathering advice and information about what they've done. Okay. So at that point, hopefully the person you reached out to will respond and will be like, yes, I'm happy to meet with you. Here's my information. Let's chat. So I would make sure to have some questions prepared for that conversation. What do you really want to know about this person? What is different about their background that they can kind of talk about or that you're curious about. What would help you decide if this is a place that you would want to intern at? Or maybe you're exploring some other options and you're like, were there any other areas you were looking into when you were trying to decide your major or what field you wanted to work in? So think of some questions, make sure to talk about yourself during this process as well. So I don't want it to be a one-sided conversation. I want it to be, oh, that sounds like a really interesting project you worked on. We did something similar in my first year design class or something. And here's kind of what we did. So know that you have value to offer, and in order for them to want to potentially refer you, they have to know a little bit of information about you in order to vouch for you, right? So you want to get them a little bit curious about what you're up to, what some of your goals are as well. So definitely try to kind of weave that into the conversation. If you're getting to the point where you're like, I need to tell them that I'm looking for an internship, a good question to ask is, do you have any advice for someone trying to enter this field, or for someone trying to gain experience in this area? I've seen a few openings on your website, and I'm just curious about how I could approach that. And typically they're like, oh yeah, we can talk about it, or here are some things that are going on. And one thing to know too is that this is a very common practice. So this is not going to feel like a really strange ask from them. This is something that happens and occurs every day in the working world. It's almost like if someone from your high school was reaching out to you about your Duke experience, right? So it's very comfortable for people. It might be awkward, right? At the same time. So you're not going to hit it off with every person you talk to. And that's just how relationship building is, right? But every once in a while you will get a really good connection or a really good contact to that you can kind of keep reaching out to and keep talking to. Okay. So to find these people to talk to, you can utilize the Duke Alumni Association's database, or like the directory, or LinkedIn. Those are two great resources. Again, for more information on that, I would definitely check in with the Career Center. It's a lot to cover in this workshop today, but definitely look at those as a place to start with finding people in the areas that you're interested in. Also, if you have any personal contacts, so for example, if you're going home and you know some people in the community or from your high school, I've had students literally send like a mass email to some of their people that they know in their community and say, like, I'm coming home for the summer. I'm looking for an experience in these areas. Like, do you happen to know anybody? Or maybe you have a company in mind or something. And you'll be surprised what, oh, like a friend of a friend, or, my neighbor down the street, works in this space. So don't underestimate just people that you might know in your immediate circle there. And then also, finally, definitely check in with some of your faculty members or staff members on campus or advisors. They are super connected. They know a lot of students who've graduated. They're living and breathing into these fields. So it's really great to check in with them and let them know what you're looking for. The more people that know what you're looking for, the more success you're going to have in finding leads and in finding information. Okay, so attending recruiting and career events is also a part of this process. So we just went over a way that you can actively find someone in the field. These are events that we are bringing people to you. So we're trying to make it easier for these connections to happen, okay? So we do have things like career fairs and networking events. All of these things can be found in career connections under events. So you can find career events, and then you can find employer hosted events, which will cover things like information sessions from employers, which are typically like 30-minute conversations with a representative from the company for you to learn more about what they do and what they're looking for. For networking events, some things that we have coming up are like Tech Connect, we have Startup Connect. We're also having a nonprofit and government kind of fair happening. So just staying up to date with that, so you're not kind of missing some of these opportunities where we're bringing some of these awesome people to you to kind of connect with. Sophomore Conversations is a spring event or series that we do, where we have employers come and talk with you all about what they do. And again, some of them are looking for interns. So you can definitely check that out if you're a sophomore. The Tell Me More and Exploring Careers Across Industries panel are really good for connecting with alums or professionals in different areas. So those are to shed light on some of the industries that are well known, but then some of the ones that aren't as well known, because we know just to help you kind of explore and know other options outside of maybe some of the bigger things you hear about. We're really trying to have more of that exposure for you in your search. Okay, so career connections, these are under career events. All right, events. So that's important for you. Okay, and then like I mentioned before, building your own internship is also a great option. It does require a little bit more logistics and trying to figure that out, like what's going to work best for you and maybe the person that you're working with. But it could be a fun, creative way to take advantage or make something that doesn't exist, right? So maybe it's assessing some of your goals that you're wanting to achieve. Maybe you identify a person or company that kind of meets those goals, and you find an alum or something who is working in that area. You can kind of set up a call with them, talk it out, and see, are you looking for anything this summer, or do you have a project or something that I can work on? I'm happy to help and kind of dive into this space. And you can see what you can work out. So definitely don't be afraid to kind of put yourself out there and see what could happen. Interviewing. So I stuck this slide in here just as a reminder that, an interview is on the horizon if you are submitting in these applications, because what happens, I find a lot of students are going through this process and then all of a sudden they have an interview and they're like, oh no, I haven't done anything to kind of prep for this. I'm not really quite sure how to navigate an interview, or the tell me about yourself question, or how to kind of talk about my experiences. So it is helpful to just get some type of exposure to this beforehand. We do have a practice interview sessions that you can sign up for. I believe the deadline is today. I'm not sure if there's many other openings, but know that you can also practice interviewing with a career advisor. So when you sign up for an appointment, like a 30-minute appointment, you can say, I'd really like to work on interview coaching, and we can do that together as well. And then the other tool that we got last semester is called Big Interview. This is such an awesome platform, and it helps you go through the interviewing process. You can actually choose questions based on the industry that you're applying for. And it basically records you can record yourself answering the questions. And it has like a virtual person like asking you these questions. So it's a really fun tool. And especially because a lot of interviews now are virtual, it really helps you kind of get into sync with utilizing this platform and getting comfortable with it. So definitely check out those two things. Okay. I also wanted to direct your attention to working remote resources. So knowing that a lot of things will still be remote for this summer, we have gathered some really great things on our website for you to really take advantage or do well in this space. So you can see we've got some really great tips from our employers on here. Some advice for working remotely, like how to stay in communication with your direct supervisor, and just some really good tips for navigating this new space. So know that is available to you and that you can check that out as you're deciding your summer experience. All right. The other thing that I wanted to propose or make sure you knew about was the internship funding program that is offered through the Career Center. We're actually kind of in the middle of some of the information sessions that are being offered, but this is a way for you to apply for funding for those low paying or unpaid internships. This was going to be for on-site and remote. It has now changed to remote only experiences. So you can receive up to $3,000 stipend for a remote experience. And you have to attend like an information session. You can apply up to 3 internships to be considered for this. But there is like an application where you have to write like a short essay. You have to do like a budget and a few other things. So definitely an awesome opportunity if you're finding that the funding is kind of getting in your way of doing something that you want to do. Definitely check it out and apply through the Career Center. The deadline is March 16th. So know that you've got some time there to get that in. Okay. The other program that is going on in terms of we're recruiting for is the Career Ambassador program in the Career Center. So we have students who will join us and help us with resume reviews, with cover letter reviews, also with leading some employer panels, maybe interviewing some alums. They also get some one-on-one mentor time with career advisors in the Career Center. So if you are interested in being a career ambassador, you can apply through our website. The deadline for that is February 14th. But another great opportunity. And it's paid. So definitely check that out if you're looking for some type of work experience throughout the semester as well. Okay. So I know I went through a ton of information and I know we covered a lot of ground, but hopefully at this point you have a good foundation or some insight on the internship search. And I'm curious, I have time for a few questions I can answer. So if you want, I can start looking at some of these from the chat, or you can ask me and unmute yourself, whichever way you'd like to do it.
I have a question.
Yes.
For the Duke funding program that you mentioned, did you say it was only for remote opportunities, or is it also for in-person internships?
So it's for remote at this time. I just found this out before the session today, but go to the website and it'll give you the most updated information there. Because it was going to be like 2,500 for remote and then 3,000 for non-remote. But now I think it's just the 3,000 for remote. But check it out. Just make sure that I'm saying the right information.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else?
Yeah, hi. I also have a question. So I was wondering, for like utilizing like job boards and other places with listings, do you have any tips for like specifically first years and like, I don't know, how to navigate that? Maybe what are the best places to look so you like avoid getting filtered out?
Okay, so looking the best job, like tips for how to navigate looking at a job board. Is that what you mean?
I mean, like looking at like a job board, but like also like applying like while being a first year. And like,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So for first years too, I do find some frustration with maybe there aren't as many opportunities open for first year students. Um, so know that that sometimes happens. So if you're looking at job boards and you're like, oh, I don't really see anything for me, that could happen. But know too that you can start developing relationships with some of these companies or employers now. That way, when you do apply in your sophomore or junior year, you've already kind of established some of those connections. Um, and also, like we were saying, you can get really creative with what you do this summer. I don't like to put a lot of pressure on the summer of your first year, because we want you to do something, but it doesn't have to be a formal internship by any means. Okay. Anyone else? I think we have time for one more question.
I was going to ask this, but I wasn't sure if this was like, I'll just go ahead and say it. So essentially, I know that you said a lot about how networking was really important, essentially like the number one priority. And some good places to start would be like the Duke Alumni Network and etc. So would you say in that situation, like cold emailing would be our best bet, especially since everything's so remote right now? And if so, how can we make it so that our cold emails are like effective or like they connect well? Because I know a lot of cold emails to a lot of companies or a lot of people end up just being thrown into the junk because they're like, oh, it's just another kid trying to find and trying to connive their way into this place. And I'm just trying to find, I guess, a good way to introduce myself and make sure it feels genuine.
Sure. I think that's a great question. So if you are sending an introductory email to someone through the alumni directory, there's actually a way for you to contact them directly through that portal. So there's a little green contact button up at the top left-hand corner, and that will go to their email. Whereas like if you're utilizing LinkedIn, they have to go on LinkedIn, they got to check their profile, they have to kind of like accept you as a connection kind of thing. So there's a little bit more steps there. But sometimes they're really active on LinkedIn. So it's kind of like those two tools are really used hand in hand. But hopefully if it goes to their email, they know that like you're a Duke student, you have that connection already. That's really helpful. I would also pull out anything that you have in common with that person. Maybe you are part of a similar organization as them. Maybe you have really similar interest areas and you're like, oh, I'm also doing this or thinking about this as a major. And then you can kind of ask, you can kind of go through it from there. So hopefully they'll respond and you can kind of have that conversation. But yeah, it is tough to stand out and have someone pay attention to you. But another thing I'll say is if you have someone in common who can introduce you to that person, that helps too, because then it's not coming from nowhere. Like they have, oh yeah, so and so knows Chris, and then I can kind of talk with you. It's a little bit easier that way.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. So a lot here. I know we just scratched the surface, but happy to follow up with you and talk with you about the internship search. Definitely utilize the advising appointments on Career Connections to follow up with any questions that you had about today. And I do have a quick survey or a quick evaluation for today. If you could take some time to fill that out, that would be wonderful. Just your feedback is so valuable to us during this time. So, but thank you all so much. And I will talk to you later.